Bhushana Balaba Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihare Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihare Gopijana Ballabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Ballabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Ballabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhuchar Saradara Krishimara Sivakti Vedanta Saivara Shabopad Ki Iskan Samstapakachaya Shlabopad Ki Ananta Guri Vaishnava Vindi Ki Jai Namacharyadas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Jagasi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasa Ghura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Goparan Ki Jai Vrindavandam Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navavitam Ki Jai Kongamai Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Sambhavela Bhaktandi Ki Jai Gaura Pramanande. All glories to the seven devotees, all glories to the seven devotees, all glories to the seven devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Bin ich auf dem Boden? Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki. So we continue with the Transcendental Diary by my godbrother, Hari Sauri Prabhu. It says here, August 1976 to October 1976. So he was Prabhupada's servant for some time. And it's very nice to, whenever he was with Prabhupada during the day, at night, he would always sit down and make notes of whatever had happened. I'm always used to say that this is actually more Vapu than Vani. So we associate and directly with Srila Prabhupada. And hear how Prabhupada did things, what he did, how he answered questions, not his servants directly. Srila Prabhupada, however, was not a mandible. There are not many. Should I put it like this now? Or what? Srila Prabhupada, however, was not a mandible. There are not many qualified men in Europe, and he told Harikesh, I sent you especially for preaching in that quarter. Therefore, I gave you money. Otherwise, in USA, what is need of money? You have experience in that area. Therefore, I gave you money. So I request you not to go to the USA, even if it is a little difficult to preach in that quarter. I have written to Gurudas and Suchandra to join you. Combine together and preach in USA. There are many preachers, but here no preachers. Otherwise, if you must preach in English, then you may preach in England. This is so Srila Prabhupada was writing to Harikesh. Because Harikesh, Prabhupada had given him sannyas in Vrindavan, and so he actually didn't need any more. He wanted him to go out and preach. And Harikesh was very hurt because he thought that Prabhupada had thrown him out, wanted to throw him out. So then, so he started preaching in the communist countries. I also accompanied him, also to Moscow and all that. Anyway, so then he gave him money because Hare Krishna was saying that he had no money to preach in those countries because these countries were actually very expensive. You had to pay for every day. You have to pay a quota there. Anyway, so and Prabhupada gave him money, and he indicated that I want it back. It was not given as a donation, but he insisted that Hare Krishna pay it back. So it's mentioned here that Prabhupada also wrote a letter to Gurudas, and he also sent me a message to assist Hare Krishna, because the person who had accompanied Hare Krishna in the communist countries couldn't take it anymore. And he also became sick and all this. And Hare Krishna had come to Germany. So when Tama Krishna had suggested that Hare Krishna go to America and take part in that bus program, they had a big bus program there with many devotees and several buses, Greyhound buses, these big ones. Anyway, but when he came to Germany, he was invited by Alanat. His name is now Paramadvaiti. So he went with him to Hungary because there was a yoga teacher who invited them. I also went with him to Hungary after that. And so Prabhupada, when he heard the news that he had gone to Hungary, the communist country, he was very inspired. He insisted that don't go to America, stay in Germany, and go from Germany to the communist countries. Yeah. And also because he lost his assistant, so Hare Krishna was insisting that I accompany him. This is actually my name here, Suchandra, my former name. This was the name that Prabhupada gave me. Anyway, so then at the time when Hare Krishna came to Germany, I don't remember the name now. There was Prabhupada had sent another devotee to Germany from London, and this devotee actually didn't like it very much in Germany. He didn't like this German mentality, as he said. And so when Hare Krishna came into Germany with his danda and everything, then Jayatita was his name, Jayatita. So Jayatita insisted that he wrote to Prabhupada, "Oh, the Hare Krishna just came to Germany. Can I go back to England?" Yeah. So then, so Jayatita left, and Hare Krishna became the temple president first in Schloss Rettershof, and he was very severe, very, very austere. He always, he insisted that everyone chant the japa in the temple. And when people wanted to go out, he got his danda and locked the door. So they couldn't go out. No, and he was preaching very heavily. Inspiring the Sankirtan, especially Sankirtan devotees. Yeah. So Prabhupada said here, combine together and preach. In the US, there are many preachers, but here, no preachers. Otherwise, if you must preach in English, then you might go to England. I decided that during Kartik, I would only eat once a day, and on Ekadasi, I would observe a complete fast. This is Hari Saudi. I also chanted 32 rounds today. Unfortunately, when it came to doing Prabhupada's massage this evening, I was so weak that after about 25 minutes, I had to stop, and Prabhupada let me take rest. So, for practical reasons, I have abandoned the idea, and I will carry on with my normal schedule. In other words, we shouldn't be too austere, that our practical, physical devotional service is hindered by this. It is artificial. Just like there's a verse, Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Payojita Dhanasha Vairagyam Jnanam Chayada Haitukam. It says that it's the Bhagavatam, second, second chapter, first time. And it says when one worships Vasudeva, one obtains two results. One is that one gets knowledge, one is blessed with knowledge, and the other one is one becomes detached from the material world. So this is natural. Artificial austerities are not recommended. So, October 5th, 1976, Bhavananda Maharaj arrived here early this morning and went to see Prabhupada around 6 a.m. His Divine Grace was very happy to see him and eager to hear his news. Bhavananda told him that after getting a new Indian visa in New York, he had traveled with Tamal Krishna Maharaj to Africa to check the situation there. From Africa, he flew straight here. He said that Brahmananda Swami had been living outside the temple for a short while with some Americans. He had grown his hair and had stopped chanting. A week before they arrived, he had moved back into the temple and was now doing nicely, following the whole program and chanting all his rounds. They stayed about 10 days to encourage him, and they promised to try and arrange for more men to come and join him. As there are only about 5 in Nairobi right now. Nairobi is Kenya, no? Kenya, yeah. Okay. Bhavananda also reported that Navayogendra Swami is doing well in Mombasa. Says the story goes that Prabhupada actually sent Bhavananda, Brahmananda to Africa to preach. And the story goes that he went there, but he started only preaching to Indians. There's a lot of Indians in Africa. Actually, they in many places they carry the economy there. And anyway, so he went there, but instead of preaching to the Africans, he only preached to the Indians. And when Prabhupada heard about that, he wrote him a letter and told him, at that time there was no internet, he had to write him a letter. So he told him, don't preach to the Indians so much. We want African devotees. In this way, so he became a little weak. And then Tamal Krishna and Bhavananda, they went there to straighten him up. Yeah. So whenever the Brahmanan was a very important devotee, he was one of the first devotees in New York. And so when he kind of wasn't so well, the senior devotees had to go there and help him out. Yeah. Anyway, so this is, I mentioned many times that when there are problems in ISKCON, Prabhupada normally called Tamal Krishna Maharaj to help solve the problems. Just like when Prabhupada stayed in India at the end, Tamal Krishna was also his servant. So October 5th, well, I'll read a little more and then I stop. Is that okay? Bhavananda, okay. Srila Prabhupada was relieved to hear that both Brahmananda and the Yatra were faring better. Besides giving us the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada also peppers his classes with many cultural aspects of Vedic life. So what we learned, how it is to be applied. Thus, this morning, in commenting on Draupadi's arguments why Ashwatthama should not be killed, Prabhupada presented some enlightening aspects of Vedic culture. He first explained that in one sense, Dronacharya was still alive in the form of his son. as a tree and its sake, as a tree and its seed is not different. Similarly, he told us, uh, a father and his offspring are the same. Drupadi therefore reasoned that killing Ashwatthama was the same as killing Dronacharya. No, no, we always uh, hear that. Actually, Prabhupada didn't just come to teach us to chant Hare Krishna, but actually he came as an ambassador of a culture, of Vedic culture. Actually, Prabhupada introduced many things, and he always used the Vedic tradition as an example for certain things. Like him, he's saying this, mentioned the same thing. Drupadi's behavior, what she said, the meaning, deeper meaning of it. That Baba says here, the seed of the tree is not different from the tree. Originally, family life was different, not like in the Western world. Uh, just like I heard that in Vedic language, that there's no word for divorce. Just didn't exist. In the West, it's very common that, like I remember in Argentina, 40% of the marriages they separated. Anyway, so family life was very different. The way the couples would come together was completely different. They wouldn't go out into some nightclub, and search out some girl or something like that. Yeah. Like we have the experience also in Panama. No, Panama, we have a lot of Indians because it's a free zone, commercial zone. And so there are many Indian businessmen. And normally what they do, they send their young sons there from the business families, they send to expand their business in Panama. And then as they come as young men, it's very common that after some time they're called back. And the parents have a wife for them. This is unimaginable in the Western countries. And in this way, when things are properly organized, there's also Garbhadana Sanskara. There's no that kind of children are not produced by illicit sex life like that. But the Garbhadana Sanskara, very, very, a certain atmosphere is created. Prabhupada also wanted that his grihastas, before procreating, I said in English, no, procreating, they chant 50 rounds, to attract good souls, to their family or to the womb of their mother. Yeah, actually, if we are nicely taking care of preparing everything nicely, and the best preparation is to be Krishna conscious, purifying the heart, leading a life that is exemplary, grihastas. Actually, Prabhupada wanted the grihastas also to preach. And very important for the grihastas is in this case that they lead an ideal life, exemplary life. When people come when the grihastas do programs regularly, they can always go there, Whereas, when a sannyasi travels, he's only a few days there. Nobody knows what he's doing after or what he did before. Jai Maharaj, Bhai Maharaj. So the grihastas are very important. This ashram is very important for our preaching. People can always go there. They can observe how they live. They give an example. And anyway, so I don't want to expand it unnecessarily. Srila Prabhupada ki. Maybe somebody can put this in here. I don't know how to. Here, it's until there. Huh? Yes, questions? Oh, commentaries?
No, no questions on it. We hear that from Prabhupada Lilamrit and from all these books, diaries, that during Prabhupada time we were very strict in following the things.
Yes.
And one side we hear that Krishna consciousness is not about rules and regulations. It's
Sorry,
about
right?
Krishna consciousness is not about rules and regulations, but it's about chanting. So nowadays,
well, all these rules and regulations help you to chant better.
Yeah. So
Like getting up early,
should we
attending Mangal Arti in the morning.
So should we the nice example was Maharaj was stopping with the danda not to go and chant.
What's that?
In the reading, in the diary, you read that Harikesh Maharaj was stopping people not to go out before they chant their rounds. So it was kind of strict. So
Yeah.
is it not good to have a nice practice of Krishna consciousness that we be strict? Because we are seeing that everything is taken easy.
You give the example. That's how Prabhupada taught us, to live a life of Krishna consciousness. And as long as you're not on the spontaneous platform, you are supposed to be following very strict all the principles.
So should we
Sadhana bhakti, getting up early. And also Prabhupada said that Paramahansa, one devotee on the topmost platform, he might not be obliged to follow so many detailed principles anymore. But even though he does follow them to give an example. So that's what Prabhupada did. Yeah. Prabhupada was the first one to get up in the morning, but not even at midnight. Yeah. And all his young disciples were snoring. He says in the diary, sometimes Prabhupada came into his room during the night because there was something important. Yeah? And he had to be ready to get up for Prabhupada. Yeah. It's very heavy, to be in a position like that. Get direct training, by a person like Srila Prabhupada. Wow. Yeah. And there was no pajalpa in the presence of Prabhupada. Even Prabhupada said once, when he was traveling with disciples, they were laughing about something. And Prabhupada said, in the presence of the spiritual master, don't laugh like that. Now it's common.
Yes. So should we stop them?
But it was Prabhupada, no? There's a difference. No? Yeah. And Prabhupada attracted so many intelligent people. They're talking with Prabhupada, and he explained things nicely like that. Yeah. So follow Prabhupada. He's your Shiksha Guru. No? Yeah. You're all disciples of Prabhupada. Shiksha, disciples. Some of us were Diksha and Shiksha. You have Prabhupada as instructing spiritual master. Prabhupada gave us a standard by your own behavior. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, related to that, should we now when I see someone, should I stop or should I just keep quiet? Just as you said now, present yourself so that they learn. So should I keep quiet
Yeah.
or should I correct?
Well, depending on the atmosphere, no? And the consciousness of the person you're instructing. If it's a new devotee, well, you have to do it softly, so he doesn't run out the door, feeling offended. No. Somebody comes and wants to come in the temple with his shoes on. Well, please, can you please take off your shoes? This is a custom here, and we don't come into the temple with our dirty shoes from the street. No? Depends on how convincing you are. No? And when people come to the temple, like I mentioned many times, they have to be, normally in bigger temples, they have a reception for new people on Sunday. And there's a person who receives them, or several devotees take care of the new people who come to the temple. And they treat them very nicely. They ensure that they have a nice seat in the temple and all this. What do you think? Yes. Yeah. They explain things to them, because when somebody comes new, it's like, so many weird things are happening. They're jumping up when they dance. Don't force them to do the same. Yeah? Take care of them very nicely, very nicely. Did I answer you? Yeah. So we're reading, continue with Prahlad Maharaj. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Oh, yeah. Sri Chaitanya. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. Sri Chaitanya Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. So reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 7th chapter, text 18, is it? Oh, I opened the wrong page in here. Sorry. Madhya Lila. So it's Chaitanya Madhya Lila, 7:17. No? Yeah. Eta Bali Mahaprabhu Kadila Gamana. Mochita Hanyatahan Palila Sarva Bauma. Eta Bali Mahaprabhu Kadila Gamana. Mochita Hanyatahan Palila Sarva Bauma.
Eta Bali Mahaprabhu Karila Gamana.
Eta Bali Mahaprabhu Kadila Gamana.
Moshitahanataham Padila Sarabhauma.
Dahanyataha. When it's an N with this sign, it's a N. It's like Spanish. Spanish they have the same. Hanya. Okay? Mochita Hanyatahan Pandita Sarvabhauma. Ladies? Hari Mahaprabhu Karila Gamana. Mochita Hanyatahan Pandita Sarvabhauma. Eta Bali Mahaprabhu Karila Gamana. Mochita Hanyatahan Padila Sarvabhauma. Eta Bali. Saying this, Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kalila, mate, Gamana, departure, Urchita, fainted, Hanya, becoming, Tahan, there, Padila, fell down, Sarvabhauma, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Translation. Saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departed on his tour, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya immediately fainted and fell to the ground. So there's no purport. Anyway, so for those who have not been here in the last Chaitanya Chaitamrita readings, no, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had just been in Puri. He had been with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He had made him a devotee. No, it says that he was a very important pandit, no, very learned. He was a pandit of the court of Padavaru. No, was that the king? The name was Padavaru. Yeah, Padavaru. Yeah, Padavaru. And it says he was so important that from all over India, people would come to study under him. So Sarvabhaumacharya had observed when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had come into the temple. At that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came alone, because he didn't want to travel with a group of devotees who didn't appreciate that he actually had taken sannyas. Nityananda was so upset that he broken the danda of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu noticed that, he decided to continue his journey alone. So he had arrived in Puri alone. He went into the temple. And so when he was before the deities, he fell unconscious, I say. He fell to the ground. And Sarvabhaumacharya, he was also in the temple. He had observed him, how he had come in. And he was very impressed by the beauty of this sannyasi, by being so young. And immediately he thought that this sannyasi would have problems. Because I say normally sannyas is the last order, the fourth order. When you come to a certain age, at the end of life, at least the brahmanas are supposed to take sannyas. Anyway, so we had observed him, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had fallen down, and so the guards came to take him out, or throw him out, more or less, because they thought that he had just laid down and sleep. It was not this was very offensive from their point of view. So they had and Sarvabhaumacharya immediately interfered. Please take him to my home. And when when they had brought him to his home, he had heard about it from the Shastra. He was not a devotee. He was well, you can say, impersonalist. He was teaching Vedanta Sutra. He was a Vedantist, like they call him. Anyway, so he had read that sometimes the advanced souls experience all these ecstatic symptoms, and he wanted to study him from close. He had an example now there to study properly. And actually, it seems that he was dead, but to see actually was still alive. He put some cotton in front of his, nose, and he noticed that actually he was still breathing, very slowly, breathing. But then it came to an end. He did, and then the devotees arrived in Jagannath Puri, and it says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this was the topic of talk at that time. That young son, beautiful sannyasi had come. He had fallen down in the temple and all that. And that they had carried him to the house of Sarvabhaumacharya. So the devotees knew. They had experienced this before. So they knew how to bring him back to external consciousness, by having a kirtan in front of him. So they immediately went there, started a kirtan, and I remember he was the husband of the wife of Sarvabhaumacharya. No, the brother of the wife of Sarvabhaumacharya, as far as I know. I don't remember his name. Yeah. He immediately started preaching to him. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and but he was skeptical because he was a kind of speculator. So then, but he felt compassion. Mind you, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came back by the kirtan, and he still felt his compassion, and he offered to educate him. He thought that if he's not properly educated, he would have some problems as a sannyasi. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the invitation to be educated by him. And it says, it says that he offered him an elevated seat, because you're supposed to treat sannyasis with some special etiquette. And he sat in front of him and started instructing him, on the basis, he gave all his, purports, or meaning of the Vedanta Sutra. And for 7 days, he was instructing him. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't say a single word. He was sitting there listening. So then Sarvabhaumacharya asked him, you don't have any question? You're listening for 7 days now. Any questions? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I know the Vedanta Sutra, but your commentary seems like this. The Vedanta Sutra is like the sun, and your commentary seems to be like the clouds covering the sun. No? And then then Samvadacharya challenged him. He said, "Now, let's hear your commentary on the Vedantas." And he started speaking so nicely that no, Samvadacharya was impressed, deeply impressed. He had never heard commentaries like that, such deep commentaries. So then no, he started realizing that actually this person must be the author of the Vedanta Sutra. Or say, in other words, must be like Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is known as a Shakti Avesha avatar, an incarnation of Krishna. Yeah. So he became so impressed, he fell at his feet, became his surrendered, servant or disciple. And and then at one point, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had stayed for some time. He also participated in the Ratha Yatra in Puri. And then he was about to leave. He wanted to go to the South India, where it's all in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, a lot of the pastimes in the South. For 6 years he was traveling without without stopping, after he had taken sannyas. So then, he started, and that's where we are at now here. No? The Samavadacharya is paying his obeisances to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and saying, how do you say in English? It's verabschieden, what is that? No? Yeah. Verabschieden, hat sich von ihm verabschiedet. But he felt so much separation with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that fell to the ground, unconscious. And then it says, interesting, the next verse, it says what? Tandyo Bhakshiya Kaila Zigragamana Kevujite Pare Mahapura Chittamana. Although Samavadacharya fainted, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not take notice of him. Rather, he left quickly. Who can understand the mind and intention of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Purport. It was naturally expected that when Samavadacharya fainted and fell to the ground, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have taken care of him and waited for him to regain consciousness. But he did not do so. Rather, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately started on his tour. It is therefore very difficult to understand the activities of a transcendental person. Sometimes they may seem rather odd, but a transcendental personality remains in his position, unaffected by material considerations. This reminded me now of the question he asked. That great souls like Prabhupada and others, they have their own way of acting. It might sometimes not appear, socially, accustomed, but they have their own way of dealing, like Prabhupada also. Often Prabhupada, when the devotees would ask Prabhupada questions, he answered, but seemingly he didn't answer the question. And so later we realized that actually Prabhupada was answering the cause of the question. You know what I mean? Yeah. He went directly to the real doubt that the person had. Like I had I had very few conversations with Prabhupada. And at one point, Prabhupada had initiated a devotee. It was actually a girl here in Germany. And so when we went to London, Shivananda wanted me he went to see Prabhupada and insisted that I accompany him. So then Shivananda introduced me to the Prabhupada, said that this is Suchanda, he has opened a temple in München, Munich. He's very nice. And then Prabhupada said, do you have any question? And I asked him, this name, I mentioned the name of the initiated girl, no? Yeah. I said, isn't that the name of Maya? No? And Power said, you don't like the question, you don't like the name. He didn't answer if it was the name of Maya or not. He said, you don't like the name. Yeah, anyway, so let's continue here. Yeah, 2 times Power, I say, smash me. Yeah. Anyway. Mahanu, was it the same verse now? Oh, okay. Mahanubhavera chitera swabhavahihaya pushpa samako malakatina vajramaya. This is the nature of the mind of an uncommon personality. Sometimes it is soft like a flower, but sometimes it's as hard as a thunderbolt. The softness of a flower and the hardness of a thunderbolt are reconciled in the behavior of a great personality. The following quotation from Uttara Ramacharita 2.7 explains his behavior. One may also consult the Madhya Lila, 3rd chapter, verse 212. Well, it would be nice to have that verse right here. Anyway. Huh? Madhya Lila, 3rd chapter, verse 212. Quick, quick. Can you read it?
Yes, Master.
But loud. You have no microphone.
212. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was unaffected. He left swiftly, and Advaita Acharya followed him weeping.
Sorry?
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was unaffected. He left swiftly, and Advaita Acharya followed him weeping. This is 212.
Yeah. Can you read some? Is there purport?
Yeah. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains, the word nirapeksha means not being affected by anything material and remaining fixed in the service of Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not very much care for the roaring tumult and cry at the house of Advaita Acharya, which he heard when starting for Jagannath Puri. Worldly moralists may criticize Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for being very cruel, but the Lord did not care for such criticism. As the world teacher of this Krishna consciousness movement, he actually showed that a person seriously engaged in Krishna consciousness should not be affected by worldly affection.
Worldly affection.
The best course is to engage in rendering service to the Lord and to become callous to material activities, material objectives. Externally, everyone is attached to material things, but if one becomes entangled in such things, he cannot make progress in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, those who are engaged in Krishna consciousness should not care for the so-called morality of the material world if that morality opposes the service of the Lord. As Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has personally shown, one cannot properly execute Krishna consciousness without being neutral. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Neutral, yeah. Transcendental. Okay. Any questions regarding this? Otherwise, I'll continue. Okay. Vajrapi kudharani mriduni kusumat api Lokataranam Chetangsi Kona Vidyatum Ishvaraha. The hearts of those above common the hearts of those above common behavior are sometimes harder than a thunderbolt and sometimes softer than a flower. How can one accommodate such contradictions in great personalities? There's no purport. Nityananda Prabhu Bhattacharya Uthaila Tandra Loka Sange Tandre Ghare Pathaila. Lord Nityananda Prabhu raised Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and with the help of his men to saw him to his home. Bhaktagana Shikra Asi Laila Prabhu Rasatha Vastra Prasaralanya Tave Aila Gopinata. Immediately all the devotees came and partook of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's company. Afterwards, Gopinath Acharya came with the garments and prasad. No, Gopinath Acharya. That was the name of the person I was trying to remember. Saba Sange Prabhutave Alanatal Aila Namaskara Karitare Bahu Stuti Kaila. All the devotees followed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to a place known as Aladanath. Alanath. Alanath. There they all offered respects and various prayers. Prema Veshe Nitya Gita Kaila Katakshana Dekite Aila Tahan Vaishayata Jana. In great ecstasy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and chanted for some time. Indeed, all the neighbors came to see him. Chaudi Kete Savaloka Bali Hari Hari Prema Veshe Matya Nritya Kare Gauda Hari. All around Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is also known as Gauda Hari, people began to shout the holy name of Hari. Lord Chaitanya, immersed in his usual ecstasy of love, danced in the midst of them. Kanchana Shatrisha Deha Aruna Vasana Pula Kashru Kampasveda Tahate Bhushana. The body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was naturally very beautiful. It was like molten gold dressed in saffron cloth. Indeed, he was most beautiful for being ornamented with ecstatic symptoms, which caused his bodily hair to stand on end, tears to well up in his eyes, and his body to tremble and perspire all over. Ekiya loke ramane haila chamatkara yata loka aise kaiha nahi yaya gara. Everyone present was astonished to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing and his bodily transformations. Whoever came did not want to return home. They didn't want to return home. Yeah, no, it's mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and also in the, I don't remember the name now of the Shastra, about the beauty of Chaitanya. He was extremely beautiful. And so also when he was about to take sannyas, his followers didn't want him to cut his hair. we was so beautiful. And also the how you say the shaver, how you say that? How you say that? The barber, the barber. He was also trembling. He didn't want to cut the hair of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anyway, so there's no purpose here to these verses. Let's see until the next one. Kehana Sikihagaya Sri Krishna Gopala Prameteva Silaloke Sri Vrinda Abala. Everyone, including children, old men and women, began to dance and to chant the holy names of Sri Krishna and Gopal. In this way, they all floated in the ocean of love of Godhead. Deki Nityananda Prabhu Kahe Bhaktagane Erupani Erupanritya Age Bhave Have Grame Grame. Upon seeing the chanting and dancing of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda predicted that later there would be dancing and chanting in every village. So there's a short purport. This prediction of Sri Nityananda Prabhu is applicable not only in India, but also all over the world. That is now happening by his grace. Members of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness are now traveling from one village to another in the Western countries, and are even carrying the deity with them. These devotees distribute various literatures all over the world. We hope that these devotees who are preaching the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will very seriously follow strictly in his footsteps. If they follow the rules and regulations and chant 16 rounds daily, their endeavor to preach the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will certainly be successful. Very important purport, Srila Prabhupada. No. Actually, like also when Prabhupada went to the West, before Prabhupada went to the West, no, Prabhupada said that there was a concept of sannyas life in India, that the sannyasis would not cross oceans and all this. And anyway, so Prabhupada went to the West. And then also they started, his godbrothers started criticizing Prabhupada for initiating Westerners who came from lecture families, used to all kinds of sinful activities, accustomed to all kinds of sinful activities. Yeah? So they didn't think these people were fit to be initiated. And then Prabhupada also married devotees. And he was criticized for getting people married as a sannyasi. Sannyasi should not be entangled with these kind of activities. And then he also gave sannyas. Wow, how come sannyas? Sannyas is meant for high class brahmanas in India only, like that. But Prabhupada had a completely different view. His view was a view of compassion. Compassion. He wanted to help the confused souls, introduce Krishna consciousness to them, make them devotees. This was the purpose is coming. And anyway, so in this way, Prabhupada accepted all kinds of so many austerities when he came to the West. He came from the most sacred place on the planet, where Krishna appears once in a day of Brahma. It's the most sacred place on the planet, and the universe practically. Krishna appears as Krishna in his original form in Vrindavan. Anyway, so Prabhupada was living in Vrindavan. Normally, many people, in Vrindavan you can see many Bengalis. There are many Bengalis living, also Bengali devotees who go there. And he was living, Prabhupada was speaking about his activities in Vrindavan at that time. And actually Prabhupada, and also there's a book, also Prabhupada in Vrindavan like that. And it's said there that when Prabhupada stayed in Vrindavan, he was highly respected. Respected. And when some important person came to Vrindavan, like a minister or something like that, they would introduce him to Prabhupada. So that Prabhupada would just explain the real meaning of Vrindavan like that. Yeah. But anyway, so he, and also, the temple of Radha Damoda, is it Radha Damoda? Yeah. The owner of the temple, they gave him a small apartment in the same temple. Now, of course, with the idea to attract more pilgrims to his place, because they would live on the donations of the deities. Anyway, um, so Prabhupada came to the Western world, and he was, it says that when he came to the West, he first stayed with a couple. She was American and he was an Indian. And actually, the father of the man, of the husband, had helped Prabhupada to go to West because he needed a letter of invitation. How is it? A letter of invitation from America. So they didn't know each other. But Prabhupada moved into the apartment of these people. And it said that Prabhupada saw so many things that he never seen before, like a vacuum cleaner and who knows what, and so many machines. It says that Prabhupada would sit on the sofa and observe how they were living, how they were using all these machines he never seen before. Anyway, but Prabhupada came to preach. So he was invited to the Dr. Misha ashram because when he wanted to move, so he moved to that place. And sooner or later he had some problems with Dr. Misha because he was a Mayavadi. It says that sometimes the people overheard heavy discussions between Prabhupada and Dr. Misha, which were done in, I think, in Hindi or Bengali, so the devotees couldn't understand what was going on. Yeah. Anyway, so then Prabhupada moved out there. And this relation, my disciples already heard that before. There was a time when we were preaching in the communist countries, and we would always go to Finland, collect, and then go to Poland and Czechoslovakia and all these places. And we had befriended an Indian in Helsinki. He was very respectful with us, knowing that we were devotees. And so one time we came back from Poland after a long, long journey. And we used to always go to these countries and come back to Finland and collect for the expenses there. And then we immediately go back. So sometimes we haven't been in the temple for a long time. Anyway, so we came back, and we had deposited so many things in his apartment. So we came back to him, and there was an older gentleman staying with him, Indian gentleman. And so the man introduced us to him. He said, "These are disciples of Bhaktivedanta Swami." And the man said, "Oh, I know Bhaktivedanta Swami." So first we thought, well, he wants to become important or something. And then I asked him, so tell us something about Bhaktivedanta Swami. And he said, "Oh yes, I was living in Dr. Misha's ashram in New York. He was also teaching yoga." And then we became exasperated to know more, no? And then he said, "Yes, Bhaktivedanta Swami was a very good cook." And this reminded us that actually Prabhupada, when he had lived with Dr. Mishra had forbidden him to speak to his disciples, because he didn't agree with the philosophy that Prabhupada was preaching. Anyway, so this reminded us that actually Prabhupada was not allowed to speak, but he continued to cook. This was another way of preaching, convincing people, like that. Like many of us were convinced to become devotees by eating prasad. Here you have one too. When I ate the first plate of prasad in the temple in Eppendorfer Weg in Hamburg, I was so impressed by the prasad that I came back again and again and again. And in this way, they kind of entangled me, they made me a devotee. Anyway, so this movement is supposed to be spreading all over the world. There will come a time when this movement is to be known all over the world. Now already, like I told you the other day, especially in South America when I travel and I go over the borders. Often the how you say the immigration people say, "Oh, Hare Krishna." No? Yes. No? Or also the stewardesses and I say the airplanes, they also often say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I took a flight once many years back to the Ratha Yatra in Berlin. I had to go by airplane to Ratha Yatra in Berlin. And so when I came back, the back I don't remember where I was going. But there was one stewardess. She was smiling all the time. And people couldn't figure out what's going on. She's smiling all the time. Then finally she came to me and said, "I took part in your festival. It's so nice. Ratha Yatra, no?" Anyway, so this is happening more and more. We just have to appear in public and preach and distribute books, have our Harinams, and make Krishna consciousness known. And present Krishna consciousness also to important people. Important people. Just like I told you yesterday, I think I told you yesterday, when we have our Ratha Yatras in South America, always the Indian ambassador is taking part. In Buenos Aires, the ambassador was actually very impressed by our movement, very impressed by Srila Prabhupada. And he started even inviting the devotees to his home to have kirtan. He got the Bhagavatam set. We got an English Bhagavatam set for him, like that. Yeah. So we should base all our existence on preaching and presenting, the movement everywhere. Yeah. Anyway, so any questions? Oh, it's already 9 o'clock. Any questions, commentaries? What caught your attention?
My attention.
Yeah. You remember anything?
It just speaks so much about Prabhupada, which we have no clue about. We just know Prabhupada from the books, but you have so much experience, and that's always caught my attention the most.
We have so many videos of Srila Prabhupada, so many photos of Srila Prabhupada. Just take advantage. That's like here, I introduce this also here, that Monday, always you hear a class of Srila, a video or class of Srila Prabhupada. This should be done in all the temples. Because we are connected with Srila Prabhupada is our Shiksha Guru, like I told you. It's the most important person in our movement. And Prabhupada insisted on that. That's why he insisted that he be known as a founder Acharya. Because why? As a top authority in the movement. Because he didn't want any influence from outside, from other Vaishnava movements or whatever. Yeah. Yes, so that's why I introduce this hearing about Srila Prabhupada from the diary of Hari Saudi. It's very important to hear. I remember when these books came out, the first book came out. I think I got it from Hari Saudi in Vrindavan at that time. On the way back I was reading. I couldn't stop reading it. Then I got to Paraguay, and devotees came to the airport, and all I did, I was just reading to them. I mean, I translated to them. Yeah. And I had to leave the book there. They insisted so much they wanted this book. So I have to give it to them. I couldn't finish it. When you hear about Prabhupada, you forget all about time, space, and whatever. Yes. Just like Shukadeva Goswami and Parikshit. When they were talking about Krishna, they forgot everything about sleeping and eating, and they completely transcended everything. They didn't sleep. no midday rest. Yeah, so, yes, very important. Your question, very important. Bhajendra Kumar, willst du noch was sagen? You want to say anything?
I was impressed about what you mentioned about Srila Prabhupada's broad vision, that he was beyond any rules and regulations.
Sorry?
About Srila Prabhupada's broad vision.
Broad vision. Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
that he was beyond any rules and regulations, that he, from the beginning, made his own, he was designing his own movement in any circumstance.
Yeah, he was thinking actually that we chant 64 rounds. That's what they had done from Bhakti Siddhanta. Yes. So then Prabhupada presented this, and he, oh no, they will not be able to chant so many rounds. Then he lowered it to 32, and then, oh no, also not. But at least, not the most, but at least 16 rounds, the minimum, not maximum. And Prabhupada also, no, like I mentioned the other day also, that when Prabhupada noticed that young girls were coming to his first temple, and he saw them unprotected, they were not married, or they were not protected by a husband or like that. No, he allowed them to come to live in the temple also. And this was also something that his godbrothers criticized. Yeah, how come? No? And Prabhupada, there's in the diary about Yamuna, no? It's mentioned that sometimes when Prabhupada was staying at the house of John Lennon, no? They had a big park in the back. It was a big mansion. So, and Prabhupada went out with the same clothes that he had used in Germany, with a black hat, so runterklappen, so, no? And his long black coat. No? Yeah. And Prabhupada was going out, only with Yamuna and Gurudas. And Gurudas was always taking photos all the time. He was a photographer, actually. How you say photographer, yeah. So many photos he made. I traveled with him once, we went to Poland, and he was just taking photos and let me speak all the time. Taking pictures of the old churches and all, going in. Anyway, so they were going out on a walk in the morning with Prabhupada. And then at one point, Prabhupada needed some boots because it was very wet. So Yamuna brought some boots for Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada said to Gurudas, he said, don't take photos. Because she was putting on the boots on Prabhupada. And also, because they were alone, it appears that Yamuna was always alone with Srila Prabhupada, because he couldn't see Garuda. The Gurudas couldn't see him. No, this was completely different to what they accustomed in India. And also, Prabhupada liked very much the singing of Yamuna. He always had her sit close, during the programs and sing. She would sing with the harmonium. Yeah. And when they met George Harrison suggested that she become a singer, public singer, because she sang so nicely. But she didn't want it. Anyway, so many things that Prabhupada adjusted according to time, place, and circumstances. Yeah. And also George Harrison came to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, should I also live in the temple and cut my hair? And Prabhupada said, no, you have a different, different service. Yeah. And when he became more or less a devotee, so many young people, fans of the Beatles, also took interest in Krishna consciousness. It says in the diary, not diary, the books that Chamashunda wrote, the biographies. It says that What's the point now? Yeah, sometimes George Harrison came to the temple in Bury Place, the temple the first temple they had there. And he would just come in, very humbly, and sit in front of the door, Prabhupada, and nobody recognized him. And all of a sudden they recognized him, and they told Prabhupada, George Harrison is here. No? And then Prabhupada, come in immediately. No? And George came in very humbly, at the distance. Prabhupada, no, sit close here, sit here. No? Prabhupada was giving so much importance to George Harrison because he was famous. Yeah. And George became very, very impressed. Yeah. Just like in the end, when he was about to give up his body. Then Shamasunda and Mukunda Maharaj, they went to stay at his side when he was about giving up his body. Yeah, and chanted with him at the time when he gave up his body. And the newspapers said, well, they couldn't figure out what was going on. They just said, oh, the Hare Krishnas were with George. And then they also found out that the ashes of George Harrison was also taken by the devotees to, I don't know which place, I think Vrindavan. Yeah. So Prabhupada had a very complete, perfect vision of things because he was completely Krishna conscious. Yeah. Like it said, like we heard here, when what you read, that the pure devotee cannot be influenced by sentimentalism. How you say? No? Yeah. He stays fixed on his mission. Yeah. Yeah. So read Prabhupada's books. Read the books about Prabhupada. There's so many books now about Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. If you can. That's why I always tell, and not here, but in the places where I'm normally staying, I always tell the devotees to learn English. Yeah. Also my disciples over there, I tell them to learn English. English is a very important language. It's an international language. And also when you go to India, yeah, unless you speak English, it's very difficult to maneuver there. And excuse me for saying that, but when you learn English, you can also hear Prabhupada directly. I sometimes have doubts, sometimes when I read also the German books. Sometimes I don't understand. I don't understand. Because, well, I'm not used to German so much anymore, but when I read German books, sometimes I don't understand things. And I have to read the original English, and then it's clear. Yeah? Of course, now the BBT is working it over. Yeah? But the first translations were difficult to understand sometimes. Anyway, any more questions or doubts? Yeah, Bhajendra.
What do you think, is it appropriate nowadays that Madashis are singing in the temple? Sometimes we found temples where Madashis can sing, and sometimes you found temples even in Germany where Madashis not supposed to sing the programs during Mangala Artik or Guru Puja and so on.
First of all, the Western countries are different than India. No, this is a big difference. Yeah. Like in India, they would never allow any of our ladies to accept disciples. They even, what it says, gedroht. What is that? Drohen. Yeah, they in India, they warned. What? They warned. Yeah. That they would separate from ISKCON if ladies are given the charge of initiating disciples. And Prabhupada loved Yamuna chanting. I remember Yamuna when she was pretty old already. She we had a GBC meeting, we were doing our GBC meetings, and Mangal Arti, Yamuna was singing Samsara Dava. And the Indians couldn't believe, what? No? And then she gave a class also. Yeah. The Western countries are different. Prabhupada saw that from the very beginning. When he saw that the ladies were not properly protected in the West, he allowed them to live in the temple. Yeah. And every year on the GBC, we had to, this topic was always discussed, of ladies becoming gurus. From year to year, it was always a topic in the GBC meetings. Now finally they allowed, and then they disallowed. How do you say again? I wonder how this will end. Yeah. In Buenos Aires in Argentina, we have a lady as a temple president. A disciple. She was discipleship Prabhupada. Yeah. Many temples nowadays, they have ladies in charge. Dara also. She was more or less a temple president here. No? What do you think? What do you think?
I think if they are qualified, why not? If they are
Yeah,
excellent,
that's what Prabhupada's criterium. How say? No? Yeah. It's not a question of whatever, but it's a question of qualification. And in Buenos Aires, they were happy having her as a temple president. She was older, and she was like the mother of the temple, I say.
This temple was also found by Mataji.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. This temple was also found by Mataji.
She was collecting the found.
She started preaching to a rich person, and this person will come today to speak about the history of this temple. Yeah, and this gentleman gave all the money for the temple, getting the temple. And under his guidance, this temple was constructed. You know, that he asked Prajendra Kumar to build this whole thing here.
When I came here,
All this was done by Prajendra Kumar. He put the marble and everything here.
when I came first, and we were speaking about the temple, he said to me privately, he said, money is not the problem. And I said, okay, then I understand. So he said, no problem about money, just do a nice thing. And whatever I need, I got it.
And in the beginning, this was a lady temple. No? They're all ladies. The whole temple was ladies. Huh? Huh?
Torsten was also here.
Sorry?
Torsten, he's coming very often to the temple and he's cleaning the stairs. Torsten.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, big.
You know,
Yeah, yeah,
he told me many things about the beginning,
yeah.
how it was at the beginning.
These deities were on the top floor before. Small, tiny little altar. And there were still people living here when the devotees came, still living here. Some Turkish family was living here. And they didn't want to move out. I don't know how this happened. But they were living here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
On this floor.
Where the altar stands, there was this.
Yeah, let's keep this for later. Let's keep all this for later. Hey, for later. Srila Prabhupada ke Gaura Pramanandi. Srila Prabhupada ke Moment, keiner verlässt den Raum.
Oh.
Ich habe hier Mahaprasad von den Yogis in Japan. But there's so many devotees I have to divide them.
Dank Rosenda Kumar.
Yeah, don't be shy. Hare Krishna.
Everyone is there, Maharaj.
Everyone. Hey. Oh, Hare Krishna. When are you leaving?
Soon.
Today?
Soon, today.
How is it when you give? There's a little more here. Somebody want?
No.
Ziet u al fijn op Maharaj? Hallo.